Hello, Smegheads. I'm Ben Gilman, and welcome to Smug Mode, a Red Dwarf podcast where we discuss episode by episode the cult sci-fi comedy classic. I'm joined as always by Tom Hill,
Hello.
Troy Salmon,
Hello.
and our new permanent member Dan Rudge.
Oh yeah.
Hey, buddy. How you doing? How's everyone?
Yeah, good.
All right. Chilling.
Cool. Right. So because I've Dan's the new boy on this one, he's joining us from Square Eye Syndrome to talk about Red Dwarf because he's a big dwarfer like we are. Dan, would you like to tell us, since you worked with us for season 1, would you like just to give us like a brief thoughts of your season 1 so you can catch up with us? What do you think?
My main thoughts on season 1 are like two things. One, the first time that I saw it, I only saw the first episode, and when I figured out that everyone had died and it was just Lister and all that going on, because I saw it completely blind. I'd never heard anything about it before. I was quite young. It was just there. My dad was a fan. I was watching it, and I was really, really sort of, I was distraught. I was too young to understand that was the setup for the comedy, and I was distraught that all these people and humanity had died, and it turned me off Red Dwarf entirely because I was too young to watch it. Came back to it in my uni years after spending a lot of time just irrationally hating it, and then the scene which got me into it was, I'm not entirely sure which episode it is, but it's the one Cat is wandering around. Today's been a good day. I ate pasta. I get a lot of things wrong. That just a human playing as a cat and being that cat, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That was wonderful, and from that point on, I had to see more, and I had to see more. From there, I went back. I watched through everything from the beginning. We were already at the point where Red Dwarf was on its long hiatus, and yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. Fantastic British comedy. Fantastic way of using sci-fi, the best sci-fi comedy that I had experienced in any format since Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Okay.
The end, that just the Everybody's Dead Dave scene. Just that.
Which was nearly the name of this podcast.
It's so beautiful as
So
a scene.
close.
It's so well done because it's so sparse and minimalistic, and Lister is such an imbecile, and Holly is just this long suffering. I love it.
Everybody's
Absolutely.
dead, Dave. Everybody dead, Dave. Everybody is dead.
I'd say that there's that. I ate 5 times, slept 6 times, made a lot of things mine.
Yeah.
The orange checkered suit, the yellow orange checkered suit.
Yeah.
That's possibly my favorite bit in the entire series as well. Not even the character, just the outfit.
All right, we go into the cat's wardrobe on this podcast. We've got a vested
No,
interest
I
in-
mean, Lister's confidence.
No, Lister's shirt. Lister's shirt.
We are also a fashion podcast. People don't know that bit yet.
Lister's confidence, the big, bright, loud car salesman, yellow orange checkered suit.
Elvis
Car
guy,
salesman.
That was awesome. That was brilliant. This just that level.
Ding
And
dong, another great idea from the people who wrote you Beer Milkshakes.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. And Cloister the Stupid.
Well, that's our end destination at this time. The last episode of the current run is the cat, so we will get back there. I'm looking forward to that. You know what? Actually, because we're coming to it at the end of the season, I was wondering if we could get back to the women from Red Dwarf. That would be a fascinating return in the next season. That's something to think about.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, thank you for that, Dan. So
No worries.
I love it.
we're going to go into season 2. Tom, I'm going to let you do the groundwork between seasons if there's any changes, please, before we do the episode.
No, I don't think there's any. It's basically they've been in space for a few more months. I think they're up to about 18 months by the time season 2 happens.
Yeah.
So they've just been basically going through the exact same rigmarole of Lister and Rimmer hating each other, Cat not giving a toss about anybody but Cat, and Holly going slowly mad. So yeah, it's literally nothing has changed in the
nothing. Zero.
Okay, so let's go into season 2, episode 1 then, which is called Kryten. But it's not our Kryten. Hopefully he is a good Kryten.
He's
So
a
this
very good
is
Kryten.
My favourite episode of season 2, Kryten.
Robert LeBellin is my Kryten. I've always hated this Kryten because I saw season 6 and 7 first when I was younger. So it's kind of this other Kryten. I got back to seasons 1 and 2 after I saw 3 to 8. So for me, I've always kind of never accepted this Kryten. Although with age and maturity, I do really respect the actor, who is David Ross.
Yes.
So anyway, so the plot of this episode is the Red Dwarf crew has intercepted an SOS signal from the space cruiser Nova 5 that has crashed on a moon. The only survivor is Kryten, who's obviously done the emergency transmission to make the crew aware that they need rescuing. And he comes onto this ship because obviously the crew's dead, but we'll get to that in a second. One of the great all-time.
Yeah, love it.
This is a great episode. Just a build-up of jokes. But anyway,
Can we go back just a second because you missed out the best one in the entire episode.
Go on.
The one that's just Holly. As the days go by, we face the increasing inevitability that we are alone in a godless, uninhabited, hostile, and meaningless universe. Phil, you've got to laugh, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I was dying. I was like, oh my god, so bleak.
Basically, coronavirus England right now. You've got to laugh, haven't you? Basically, so Rimmer puts him to work and he rebels, and we start to see what will come in later seasons of Lister teaching Kryten how to spin on it, basically, and rebel. So basically, Dan, what we're going to do is we're just going to go through the best bits. We're not going to do an episode by scene breakdown. We just put in our best bits and get out within half an hour.
No,
but this is a strong middle bit though, because between Ace, Big Man, them giving each other nicknames, them telling each other what to wear, the cat with a mirror, and Rimmer and Kryten not really reveal the crew are dead and they're just skeletons. And this is one of the strongest points of Red Dwarf up to this point. It's just gag.
With the exception of the ending, which I absolutely love, my favourite bit randomly is the fact that Kryten watched a program called Androids.
Which is Neighbours.
Yeah, the Neighbours theme. Oh my days, Neighbours theme.
It's so Neighbours.
You can tell. We can tell it is Neighbours. You can tell.
Because Neighbours was big at this point over here.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's But I know a couple of friends who love mirrors, so you think it's there for comedic reasons. Trying to get my friend to go on a night out when I was younger because he used to stand in front of a mirror. That smug it, but you know what I mean. That got a laugh. I love the bit where they're all dead, and what is it? Kryten just says, "I only went out for a couple of minutes." And then listens like, "Oh, ladies, I just want to tell you, Rimmer Ace here. He's a big man." It's just like,
oh yeah, what Rimmer told it on the ship to say to the women when he gets on the ship.
But Lister's not so stupid because Rimmer always says, "Oh yeah, he's really more intelligent." But we do find out in this episode that Lister is better at Spanish than Rimmer because Rimmer Yes,
Esperanto, yeah.
For a lot of people, he may be intelligent, but when it comes to exams, he just undoes himself.
See, I always got the impression that Lister had just heard it so many times because Rimmer had tried so often that even though he wasn't translating it, he just knew the tape back to front.
That's what I thought whenever I saw that bit. But then, later on, whenever you start seeing the alternate versions of Lister and all that kind of stuff, you start realizing that Lister's stupidity is a learned stupidity. It's a survival tactic.
Oh, absolutely. But I think that was more of a development in order because they needed to in later series, not because that was what they intended in series 2.
No, they had to flesh the character out more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing that I love because, like, obviously, I find picking up because I learn a bit of Japanese. I watch a lot of Japanese. If you don't put too much pressure on yourself, it's easier to learn because you pick it up by relaxing and enjoying it. Whereas obviously that's Lister's way of doing it, where Rimmer's way is too hardcore, which is, again, I can relate to that. It doesn't go in because you're pressuring yourself too much.
Yeah, it disappears real quick.
Absolutely. I can ask you guys a question. There is a line called Charlie the Wonder Horse. What the hell is Charlie the Wonder Horse? I can't remember how this happened, but there was a line of Charlie.
Champion? Do you mean Champion the Wonder Horse?
Yeah, I thought it was like a champion horse.
I read the same amount of books as Champion the Wonder Horse, which is 0.
Oh.
And it's Champion the Wonder Horse was a kids radio show character.
Okay.
It wasn't even TV. This is way back before when people used to sit around and listen to the radio. He was a character that had repeated serialized stories where he was just absolutely brilliant and always saved the day. And just brilliant at anything a horse needs to be good at, and sort of too smart for his own good as well.
So sort of a wonder horse is what you're telling me?
Yes, well, I'm trying to say he's kind of a horse that's a bit of a wonder. I mean...
So he'll win the Grand National every time.
Yeah, basically he's a hero.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe give him a title of some sort.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for that, Dan.
Go on, Dan.
See? What a good addition to the team.
Yeah, I love it. Go on, Dan.
Lister, we found backgrounds. Lister hates art college because he thinks 12:30 is too early. I know people that think waking up at 12:30 is too early.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It's so bad. As an early riser myself, that's terrible. That's a disgrace.
I can't sleep past 7 a.m.
And neither can I. I'm up at 7 every day myself.
I'm with you, Dan. I'm with you.
The dog's milk thing is also funny because they're talking about getting supplies from the ship, from the other ship, and Hull just says about the milk, and Rimmer's like, no, Lister, sorry, what milk are we on? He's gone dog's milk. Just like, because no other silly bugger will drink it.
Lost forever, dog's milk.
And by the way, Cat is on fire this episode because the spacesuit is just amazing. And he's got a sharp red suit.
Isn't this the one with the line with Rimmer when he, to prove to Kryten that they're all dead, is, okay, ladies, 1, 2, 3, if you arrive, raise your hands.
Oh, raise your hands. Yes, there you go. That's the one.
Yeah.
All those raise your hands.
It's brilliant, and the audience is just pissing themselves.
Yeah,
that is the greatest scene of Red Dwarf so far. It's just rapid fire comedy.
I think Kryten plays that brilliantly because he's so determined for them to raise their hands.
He wasn't there. He's like, come on, ladies, come on, don't be shy.
It's just jam packed full because even to get to all these, you're missing out even more. That is just absolute comedy gold.
Oh yeah.
Like one of my favorite bits in this episode is the just where we're getting that Holly comes on. It's like a signal. We're getting the signal. It's probably nothing, but I just thought I'd mention it.
Yeah.
Immediately, Rimmer's like aliens.
Aliens. That's what I bring up as well. Dan did it for me.
Aliens that pull out of their head. I've got that down.
Aliens.
Rimmer really has an interesting view on aliens. I'm beginning to
worship him for some reason.
Yeah, and then that goes back to the pod from last season as well.
Yeah. Don't toss that, bro.
Because this season has opened with what is it? Lister tells Rimmer to drop dead. Already have encore. They're really going at each other. Proper going for each other because your nickname was never Ace, maybe Ace Hole.
Yeah.
line after line. I mean, because
That's why I said it's my favorite. That's why I said this is my favorite episode of the season. Just why you say it.
Interestingly, though, when it was voted upon in like the early 90s, this was actually voted the least enjoyable episode of season 2.
I was surprised.
People in 1988 are crazy. Too busy doing cocaine.
In 1992, I wasn't, no.
Oh, damn.
1992, but they're still 1992 is a long time ago. I think we've evolved since then.
But yeah, I just find it really weird because I've always found this one of my favorite episodes.
Like, for sure.
So the fact that it's like the least, for proper Red Dwarf fans, this was the least enjoyable episode of season 2 just seems really weird to me. But
I want to big up Lister's hole in his trousers, which got another.
That hole though.
And he just spray paints the back of his trousers.
The way he spray paints it, some black spray paint on the back of his trousers. That's funny.
It's brilliant. It's just fantastic.
yes, that's when he's wearing all his least smeggy things, isn't it? According to Rimmer.
I wish I get the nice clothes for the women.
The moon boots that set off the moon system.
Rimmer shouldn't be able to smell. If he's a hologram, he cannot be smelling Rimmer's boots. That's a bit of a nitpick right there. I do apologise.
Yeah, but this series is the first one. Well, this is actually the first episode where you start to see Rimmer interact with things because they obviously realized they'd painted themselves into a hole by not having him be able to touch stuff. So in series 2, he can touch hologrammatic stuff.
I've noticed.
But yeah,
I've noticed a few things. When Kryten delivers his rebellion speech, you can see Chris Barry is just nearly corpsing.
Yeah.
He's struggling. Also, when Kryten's doing the cleaning montage, there is no water in the bowl. I've looked back at that a few times just to make sure.
You saw the bowl.
I didn't realize until the third viewing.
Oh
okay, so God. There's a lot to take on here because there's so many weird things like Holly's hairpiece made me raw. It's just a
spacesuit with cufflinks.
Throughout the entire season, he's just like literally just changed himself every episode.
He just looks like Paul McCartney from the Beatles in the '60s, doesn't he? Maybe raw.
Paul McCartney.
Remember putting socks down his pants, which I think a lot done.
He's wearing 2 pairs of socks.
Rimmer quickly taking off his cap and putting it on his lap.
Oh yeah. I forgot about that scene. Oh my God. Rimmer went in, man. The episode, I love it.
I still love that final scene though. When Kryten actually rebels.
That was the one. That was the scene.
And what are you doing? I think I'm rebelling.
Rebelling?
Just
swim on it, punk. And this episode, I've got some trivia for you actually related to this. This episode is believed to show a first in science fiction where an automaton gives a human the finger. It's the first one. That is actually a fact. Isn't that great?
Punk.
David Rose, how do we think David Rose does as the role of Kryten? Because we won't see him again as the role. He does come back as Talkie Toaster in season 4.
Yeah.
Well,
I suppose if you're
he's
playing
decent at anything he does, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't take away from him that he was moved on from.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does his job.
The character of Kryten's much more like a butler in this one than he is in when he becomes a full-time character, and he plays the kind of butler perfectly. He plays it very well. I would say if that's the character you're going for, that this automaton is supposed to be a butler basically, which is what they've obviously gone for with his whole look. Having the British accent, having all that, works perfectly.
Yeah, well, it worked to perfection. It did. The rebelling. That was the one. The jacket and everything, bro. I loved it.
It's just the I think I'm rebelling.
I think I'm rebelling. Just downloads in his mind. High fives him at the end.
There is a deleted scene on the DVDs where the cat is shown singing a duet with Talkie Toaster. I love that. Which we've never seen the DVD.
I've never seen that.
Oh, interesting point, because I'm assuming none of you have ever read the Red Dwarf books.
No,
Yeah.
I want.
No, never read it now.
They explain how the Nova 5 crashed.
Oh,
It's because Kryten decided to clean the insides of the computer that did the
Navigation.
oh my
navigation. So he washed the inside of the computer, and that's why it crashed.
Ah.
God. He
Why
watched
does
the
Kryten
Nova
roll the natural one on so many things?
But let's be honest, with Robert Llewellyn coming back in season 3, which one would you prefer? Because it's a bit, because Robert Llewellyn, I don't.
Llewellyn.
They rebuild Kryten, don't they? So that's why he has a Canadian accent, if I believe. That's why he comes back with a different accent.
I don't know if they ever fully explain why he has a different accent. He crashes the bike, which they explain in like that Star Wars.
Because Lister rebuilds him. If I remember
they never
correctly,
explain they never explain the accent though. They
season
explain why he
3.
looks different.
Season 3, they try and do a quick like Star Wars style.
Yeah, but they don't
explanation.
actually they don't explain the accent. They just explain that it was reset. They don't actually specifically go to the accent at any point. They just say Lister rebuilt him. So they don't actually explain why he sounds American now. They just decided to do a different character with it, and that's what Robert Llewellyn went with. Because he tried quite a few different accents before he found the one he wanted. So it wasn't like a conscious decision on day one that it would be an American or Canadian or whatever. It was what Robert Llewellyn could do well that didn't sound necessarily like himself.
I have one more thing to add. Well, yeah, because I think, but going back, David Ross has done a pretty good job.
I love Miss Kryten.
It's a shame we didn't get him, but then again,
Then again, Robert Llewellyn's fantastic. So
Yeah, he is.
I'm not going to compare the two. I'm not even going to be sad that we didn't get David Ross.
It's like trying to compare Brian Cox and Anthony Hopkins. It's not going to work.
well, Brian Cox wins that every time, but let's not go there.
That's true. I've got a couple more things before we finish. Let's meet them with Chicken McNugget. That's still the same. McDonald's Chicken McNuggets is still pretty crap. 30 years later.
But they in the redone version, it just says Chicken Nugget, not McNugget. They took out the reference to McDonald's.
McDonald's reference. Cat's argument about the stick rule. Like, you threw the stick, you go get the stick. That made me cry off.
You go get
The
your
introduction to Cat in this episode, though, where he's just hiding around the corner with the bat. Here, mousey, 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 mousey. Clank, clank, clank.
Yeah. Which is good. For finally, Cat feels like he's part of the team a bit more. They brought him to the 3, and then obviously season 3, you put Kryten, then the quartet is finalized finally. It's good. I'm really glad because Danny John Jules is.
Danny John Jules.
Thank you. Danny John Jules is brilliant, and I'm really glad he's got more of a bigger role in this season going forward because, my God, he deserves it.
They never explained to you where he sleeps in the first 2 seasons, though. Sorry, just an aside.
Also, Lister has a bike ride. When he's on the bike. Does that not look like an office? That looks like a very.
Last from an office. The way he did that was actually funny. I was actually laughing the whole time. It reminded me of The Shining. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah, it looks like office.
The Shining is just like one little bike, one wheel.
Okay. Right, so what do we get to? Good start to the season, guys. How are you feeling about season 2 to start with? The first episode's in the books.
It's a good episode.
Great start.
My favourite season.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, so we'll come back for next week. Thank you for me.
Thanks for me.
That's for me.
And also me.
Okay. Now smeg off your smeg heads.